Hello, this is Norwich versus Manchester United FA Cup post-match chat. The game ends in Manchester United's favour. They win by 2-1, but was it everything that you expected? Were you happy with the performance? Who was your man of the match? All of that and more. It was a very, very interesting game. Very interesting game to watch if you're a neutral. But if you're a Manchester United fan, you will be far from happy with what you have seen. Very difficult to digest that performance. Even before the sending off, Norwich were there for the taking. This is a Manchester United team that fielded 8 different changes. But even with the changes that they had quality players on the pitch. Delo obviously is making his long return from injury and he's been in and around the team, but there was Mata who was in the team. Igalo has experience. Lingard has experience of playing in the Manchester United shirt. Bailly was back. Maguire was there. Luke Shaw was in the team looking okay. Struggling to work out how this Manchester United team didn't actually put the game to bed within the first 60 to 70 minutes. In terms of shots on target, it's not necessarily a performance that Ollie will be happy with. I doubt the coaching staff will be happy with it. I doubt the players will be happy with what they have actually put themselves through, let alone actually allowed fans to watch. This is a really serious competition. Even though Manchester United are through to the next game, there are serious doubts about whether or not they will be able to play like this against tougher opposition. Manchester City are still in the competition. So Manchester United have a lot to consider. Again, a good win, but not a great performance. Pankaj is in the house. Very terrible performance. Pankaj, it seems as if I've only just seen you a short while ago. It is very difficult. So what I will say is I'm going to grab up some statistics. What I will say about this performance from the Manchester United team is the pressure now is on Ollie a little bit with regards to the FA Cup and the Europa League. What happens with the team in the neighbouring district of Manchester has put the spotlight on Manchester United in a very different way. We've heard so many people talk about Klopp not being a very good manager. He's been lucky. There've been talk about him getting more time. Now that Ollie is firmly in place, will he get the support from the board? Will he get the support from the players? And even if he does get the support, will the players actually understand what he is asking of them? Very, very difficult to try and pick out anything that was positive from that game, apart from the fact that no one was injured in terms of a Manchester United player, from either player, from either team, to be clear. This is a game that was billed as being something good, and I suppose there was almost meant to be a procession with regards to the footballing talent on display. And I'll say again, because of Liverpool winning the Premier League, everyone will look to Manchester United to try and be the antidote to that. Everyone will look to them and see what type of football they will produce. Will it be exciting? Will it be sexy? Will it be scintillating? All of those things. But the reality is that sometimes they don't have everything their way. And this was very clear from the very beginning. Norwich were a team that didn't look like they wanted to get beat in the first 15 or 20 minutes. And then they began to grow into the game. And the more they grew into the game, the more expressive they became. And they started to open up and create chances in the first half. Now, this is a team that's conceded 56 times. So Norwich was still able to maintain control of the ball, create problems to a degree, find gaps, play in between the lines, and make their way towards the Manchester United goal. From a Manchester United's point of view, they won't be happy with that. If they were to look back at this game at any point within the next 24 to 48 hours, they will look at that and say they need to make changes themselves in terms of how they go about it. But with regards to the team selection, there are serious questions. I don't know whether or not Not to say Fred shouldn't have started, but whether Fred should have been replaced, whether you would have wanted those players to see out the game because they were losing. For all of the best intentions from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to make the changes that he did, bringing on Pogba, bringing on Rashford, you know, to only go and win by 2-1, literally within extra time, tells you so much about what is not right at the club, even though there are good times. There's a lot that still needs to be worked on, very, very much. Jay Hart says, massive clear out still needed in the summer. He says, our backup is terrible. Pankaj is saying, we need top 4. We do, Pankaj, we do need top 4. Well, will Manchester United get the top 4? Who knows? But in terms of this game, it is kind of a telling. You cannot really dismiss the performance by just saying it was a good win and we're through. You can, but you can't. And the reason you cannot do that is because Liverpool have won the league. Everyone now is starting to look at the football. It's not so much just the results. So when Manchester United are playing a team that they see as a lesser team, if they're playing a team that costs considerably less than them in terms of the players that they purchase, in terms of salary, output, everything, then, you know, people will start to ask questions, and maybe not necessarily of Ollie, but just generally of what's going on. Good question. Deirdre said, Rodders, would you take Cantwell at United if Norwich go down? I would actually. I would take Cantwell, and sometimes you can take a player that's in a team that's destined to go down and they become a better player. He's not the kind of player that's talked up as much as, say, as Jack Grealish, who, you know, in the season when Jack Grealish was in the Premier League before, it was all the talk of the town that Spurs were looking at him. Nice, you know, young English talent. Jack Grealish is back. Villa probably will go down. Everyone's saying that he's valued at a certain amount of money. Cantwell is a good player. He has an eye for goal, as we've seen today. He's very good on the ball, technically gifted in terms of being able to run with it at ease. He seems to have a good burst of pace. He has a good pass on him. He understands how to link up the play, and he's not a player he's what I like about Cantwell. He's not a player who doesn't. There isn't this talk about, oh, he cannot do box to box. You'll find him doing the dirty work and digging in front of his own 30-yard box and helping out with the midfield and breaking up attacks and actually contributing with passes going forward. So to answer your question, definitely would I take him? Would he be an upgrade on some of the players that are at Manchester United right now? Some will say no. But, you know, we have Fred, and I don't see Fred scoring goals, but I see Cantwell scoring goals in a team that are going to be relegated. So, you know, when you purchase a player and they have an eye for goal and they know what they're going to do, it's very easy to say we can make them better. And it's also extremely easy to say that Manchester United should go out and buy quality players just because they're Manchester United. And the difficulty, and I'll say it again, because of Liverpool winning the Premier League and because of Jurgen Klopp, there are players in that Liverpool team that did not cost a lot of money, that were improved by the manager, and not only were improved, but have become almost like first choice, undroppable players in that team. And it would be quite nice for Manchester United to either buy young talent that comes better under the manager, or players that are coming through the academy go on and become better players whilst playing for Manchester United. I want to know who your man of the match was, because I have to be honest, joining in with the watch along with Marcus and the guys, I could see that he chose Igalo, but I was struggling to try and work out who would be man of the match. I really, really was. You know, Dillo wasn't too bad. You know, Maguire wasn't necessarily great. I thought Shaw seemed to be adding something going forward. McTominay, I thought, did get a little bit caught up in terms of the verbal conversation with Cantwell. Fred didn't necessarily do anything wrong. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything right, but he didn't do anything wrong. Igalo did what Igalo did. He was a bit of a nuisance, playing in between the lines of the Norwich defence and creating havoc for them. Bruno doing what Bruno does. He has energy. And as discussed previously, he has this thing where he kind of flicks the ball round the back. I like it, but you can use it too much. You can use it too much. Let's get back to the comments. Pankaj, Bruno got furious at Rashi for taking the corner. Yeah, well, I can see why. I think Bruno Rashford, this is Deirdre, I think Bruno Rashford didn't have a good game today, but they aren't sharp yet. It takes time. I would say that Bruno probably needs a rest, and I said Rashford definitely needs a rest. Rashford, today's game, Rashford could have sat out. I think he's a bit of burnout, and coming back, and the bulk of your focus being on speed and pace. Speed and pace is great when the weather is fresh and it's raining. There's a little bit of dew on the grass, but in June you need ball retention. So you really do need to be smart in terms of how you move the ball around. So yeah, no wonder they're feeling tired. Deirdre said we've got to remember these guys have not played for 3 months. True. Jay Hart throwing it in, saying we need to sign Igalo on a permanent deal. He has kept us in this FA competition. Do you agree with Jay Hart? Big call there. Big call, saying sign him on a permanent deal. That's not the kind of thing you want to hear, probably, if Chelsea are buying Timo Werner. And there are other top quality strikers out there, but he could be the guy. He could be the guy that kind of brings in the silverware. You just never know. Jake says, if we miss out on Sancho, there's plenty of talent to hoover up, like Cantwell, David Brooks from Bournemouth, etc. I'll say this to you. I believe that Dortmund have sold a player to Inter Milan, a quite lively player. His name escapes me, but he's quite high up in terms of their assists. I don't see Dortmund selling 2 players of value in the same summer. So I'm not sure if Sancho will leave. And if Dortmund does go about selling 2 players, that would be something quite strange. Pankaj, it will take us more than 3 years to compete for the title. More than 3? Wow. Don't know about that. In terms of player of the match, Maguire, because he scored the winner. Pankaj. Deirdre says there should be a huge wake-up call to our chairman and board. We need to invest and invest hard. I think there's calls from Ollie, not said calls, but he's kind of tempered the current kind of splash to cash scenario, and probably doing so because Chelsea have spent money. They've spent money, and it looks like they're going to spend more money as well. George Carl is in the house. My man of the match were the corner flags, as it was the only one doing its job. Wow. Harsh words there, George. Harsh. Hakimi, that's the guy. Hakimi, yeah. Seems to be a talent. Really good, high up there in terms of the assists. And there's this Mr. Mad Marcus saying boo. Boo. He's in the house. They bought Meunier. Another great interview on and off the pitch. Oh, look, I've got a plug. Another great interview on and off the pitch. Mark, yeah, I've been busy. Mark, thank you very much. For those of you who do, if you do, I've been very, very busy on my channel. Please do check it out. I know I shouldn't really, but I am. Interview with Jessica Silva. She is the current manager for FC Metz Feminine. That's the women's team in France. A really insightful conversation with her. So check that out. That's what's happening with my channel. All good. But I'm over here helping us on Real United Talk. So please remember, I've got to get this is the bits that I love. This is it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. All good stuff. All good stuff. So, in short, in terms of this game, it is a game that Manchester United needed to win. They did win. Wouldn't say it was comfortable. I wouldn't necessarily say that the changes that were made in terms of the substitutions that entered the game made it any different. They didn't improve it dramatically. There was a clear indication of that when Pogba arrived on the pitch in the first game, and you know, everyone talked about his arrival on the pitch and how it changed the performance and the impetus against Spurs. Not necessarily saying anything bad about him, but in terms of the substitutions that were made by Ollie, very different, very difficult to say anything that was like, yeah, you know, they kind of grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, and they squeezed out Norwich in terms of them having possession of the ball. Very different, very different. Let's see, we'll look at this. Norwich v Manchester United. Max, his comments, who picks Mata when he will be against Lewis and Lingard, who have been awful this season, against Norwich, who have done well against top sides. They defended comfortably against Mata and Lingard. The difficulty for Mata, and I think this is something we mentioned in the last chat, is Mata's been one of those players that has never actually been played in his right position, never got the best out of him at all. You know, and I believe it's a shame and an indictment on every one of the Manchester United managers that have been able to manage at the club and have him in their squad, because he should have been on a number 10. They should have built the team around him in terms of that. Stats from today's game, which is always interesting. Manchester United had in total 37 shots, and in total Norwich had 9. In terms of shots on target, Manchester had 8 shots on target, Norwich had 1. So they're you know, in terms of like goals percentage ratio and shots on target, they're up there with the 100% mark. Possession wise, 36% possession to Manchester United, who had 64, but you wouldn't necessarily have said that was the case, because despite all of the possession, Manchester United did seem to labour and did not seem to have a real grip of the game. They just didn't have a real grip of the game. Corner count high in Manchester United's favour, foul count high in Manchester United's favour. So you know, it's quite close. And you know, when you look at the goals, Igalo's goal, actually talk about Igalo's goal, really good finish. Had to adjust his body well, kept his eye on the ball, and dispatched it well, considering it was a kind of a loose ball that kind of flicked up into the air. Defenders lost flight of it in terms of where the ball should have been and what they're trying to do with it, and he did well. And Maguire scoring 118 minutes, you know, against 10 men, you know. Yeah, I just don't look at that. It's probably like, you know, it's for me, it doesn't look good. It's not a great look. It's not something that Manchester United can say they did, that they can be proud about at all. It's not great, you know. So in terms of Manchester United going through to the next round, they're through to the next round. Good for them, you know, all happy in that, we're sure. But in terms of if we believe that this performance is an indication of anything other than Manchester United struggling against if it's a Manchester City, even though they played them and beaten them before. Let me make this clear. When it comes to actually going into cup competitions, it's a very different feel. And this will be a cup competition where there are no fans. You know, there's no fans involved in these fixtures, so it's going to be behind closed doors, and it's going to have a very different feel to it. So whoever Manchester United get in the next round, it will be interesting indeed. So happy, I'd say, relieved for a better word in terms of the result, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I am happy and overjoyed with the performance. I doubt very much you guys are, and I would be very hard pushed to find a Manchester United fan who's happy with the performance that they've seen so far today. It's not a game you want to go back and watch again, that's for sure. I mean, if we had to start a lockdown all over again, you definitely would not watch that. You know, you would go and find a box set of a juicy nature, science fiction or something, and a decent movie, and take that on board instead. Comments, what's going on? Max, Igalo and Fernandez didn't get the support from them. True, probably. again, it's all about the connections with the players that are on the pitch. Fernandes is used to the ball being moved quickly. He's always looking forward with a pass. In terms of number of passes, I'm sure if they were to do the stats on that, they would probably question as to how many sideways passes they played against 10 men, and did they utilise the space effectively enough when they did move the ball wide? Did they stretch the game? Did they get behind the Norwich back forward and create chances? Did they go across and pick out passes effectively? You know, it's so many things that I'll look at and say we could have improved, and we need to do better. It's going to be very, very difficult. Mata is finished as a Premier League player. I think he doesn't have the pace and is too weak. Mata's never had pace. You know, never had pace. Always been a very technical player. Never had pace at all. But weak depends. Pankaj says lack of creativity. That pass from Pogba saved us. Well, that'll probably be on the headlines tomorrow. That'll be the headlines tomorrow. Pogba's pass and Harry Maguire. But if you were writing an article about that game, you would struggle very, very, very much with regards to the key moments and the high points. It's going to be a game. Any kind of post-match report is going to actually be critical, very critical. George says, I'm still fuming at our wider squad who never stepped up. We could always say that Phil Jones is to come back, so there's hope. There's hope yet. Jay Hart, just for that comment, Jay Hart, this is getting flashed up. We needed Young in the extra time. I'm poking fun at you, Jay Hart. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Young would have scored a hat trick. Yeah, he would have scored a hat trick of crosses, mishit crosses that would have gone in. He would have scored a hat trick of crosses. Before I wrap this up, because I'm looking at let me see, Premier League fixtures, which is let's see this Premier League fixtures, which is always interesting to find out who Manchester United have next. They have Brighton away, as if this game wasn't tricky enough as it was. So they are now playing Brighton. It's an 8:15 kickoff away, so that's another late night for the boys at Real United Talk. And then following that, they have Bournemouth at home. But that day, Manchester United played Brighton. After that, there's Arsenal playing Norwich. So there are key games that are coming up. So in terms of fixtures, in terms of league position, the next few games are critical. Chelsea and Leicester look close, and 54 and 55 points. Wolves are now in 5th place. With a 2-point lead over Manchester United. So Manchester United, now that they know that they have to go to Brighton and win away, after already playing a game that they should have won within 70 minutes, they will be weary and tired. But I'm sure that Oli will do what's required in terms of getting the players ready for that game. But, you know, if it is anything like the game in terms of in the week where the temperature is quite warm, it will be very difficult. It will be very difficult. Manchester United always look good when they move the ball quickly. When they move the ball slowly, they struggle to find the right pass, and the momentum and the tempo is off. That may fit into and suit Brighton's style of play. You know, they don't necessarily have Marcus Rashford and Dan James in their midst in terms of speed going forward. So it will be a very difficult game. It's a game that Manchester United have to win against Brighton. No ifs or buts. It's not about getting a draw or coming away with a 0-0 or a 1-1. They need to get all 3 points, which will take us back to the game against Spurs. And I strongly believe that game Man United should have won. It would have put them in a much stronger position now, even though we were happy with the point. And it may get to the stage where Manchester United fans are now actually going to go back and look at certain games and think, how did we not win that game? But also, why did we not win that game sooner in terms of the minutes and the goals that were scored? I'll say again, today's game, good result, poor performance, disappointing performance, and it may come back and bite Manchester United in the bum with regards to fatigue as they go through to the next round of Premier League games, because they have become so much more important now. So they will be relieved. They will be no doubt happy that they're through, but I doubt they'll be happy with their performance in terms of what we witnessed today. Right, guys. Before I wrap this up, let's get through the points on the chat. Max says 2-1 versus 2-1 win over Brighton. George says Brighton are a very good side and we've lost there before. Yeah, tell me about it. Brighton have only won against Arsenal in the last 5 games, and Arsenal's a pub league team, so no worries. You know, there are certain things I don't want to come back and bite us in the bum, and it's things like that. I should never have read that one, Jay Hart. Jay Hart form goes out the window when United are playing it true. George brings that negativity in the other channel. None of that here. Touche. We don't do that on this channel. Don't worry, we are all good here. Listen, guys, it's been good chatting with you. Nice seeing you, Pankaj, in the previous chat, and George, definitely. Guys, we've earned it in terms of the break. Those guys that were on the watch along with Marcus, well done to you for staying the course. It is very difficult doing a watch along because you have to be there all the time and you're constant. So it's a good thing we're all kind of chipping in here. We will be back tomorrow night talking Manchester United stuff. We'll probably dissect the game a little bit more and talk about what's coming next. But this is it from me. Please remember to do like, share and subscribe. I have to do that for the guys. We've got to do this. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, sayonara. Oh, what's this? 4 more comments. Let me get them in. Right. Have a nice weekend all. Yeah, there we go. Bring on the positivity. Thanks, Rodney, and all. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, guys. And I'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye for now.